the closing sequence that I have used to make millions and millions of dollars one-on-one having conversations with individuals. Y'all ready? Okay. So the first question I ask is this. What did you like best about what you saw in the presentation? Now, why do I ask what did you like best? I never say, what did you think? I never say, do you think you'd be interested? Interested is a kiss of death word, right? Interested is asking for commitment before providing value. If I could show you a way, which is a terrible thing to say, by the way, if I could show you a way to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, would you be interested? So terrible. A better way to say that is, if there were a way. Because if you say, if I can show you a way, you're already telling them, I know something you don't know, which to them sounds like I'm smarter than you, and so now you've already created opposition, because what they're going to do is they're going to say, well, I don't know if I would be interested or not. Because they don't want to feel like they're dumb to help you feel like you're smart. So don't say, if I could show you a way. Never ask somebody if you could show them a way. Always ask them if there were a way. If there were a way. That removes you and them from the conversation. If there were a way that you could A, B, C, D, E, F, G, is that something that you would like to know more about potentially? No, potentially I would like to know more about that, right? So they've seen the presentation, they've seen a webinar, they've seen whatever. I don't have time to teach you how to do a webinar or a Zoom or a live or whatever sales presentation right now. They've already seen your presentation. They've booked a call. If they've seen your presentation and booked a call, they did not book a call because they don't care about more details about your offer. They didn't book a call because they don't desire the outcome that you promised on that presentation. They booked the call because they do desire the outcome. Now they just want to figure out if it's worth it. That's why they're having the conversation with you. Does that make sense to everybody? Yes? Okay, so what you say is, you say, based on what you saw in the presentation, whether it be a webinar, Zoom call, automated webinar, whatever, based on what you saw in the presentation, what do you like best about what you've seen so far? And you just let them talk. Why? Because in a selling environment with a pro, the person who's the prospect or the client provides all of the content, and the closer just provides the context. What is the content? The content are the reasons why they would say yes or no. So the more you get them to say, the more clarity you're going to have on their desires, and the more likely they are to buy. The reason some of you can't sell is because you talk too much and listen too little. I heard somebody say one time, they might be right. The reason God gave you one mouth and two ears is because you're supposed to listen twice as much as you talk. That's especially true in selling, right? And so what did you like best? They tell you. Great. What else did you like? Why? I want them talking as much. I want them to do most of the talking when I am selling. I don't ever do most of the talking when I'm selling. I don't even care if I'm selling to a group. I'll get the group to talk back to me. Does that make sense to everyone? Say yes? Yes. See, you just did it. And I'm not even selling anything. Okay, so then after that, I say, based on what you've seen so far, so they've already seen what the product is or the service. They already know how much it costs. Based on what you've seen so far, what questions, if any, do you have? Well, question one, what about this? You answer that question. And then you say, what other questions do you have? And they ask you another question. Great. And then you say, what? What other questions do you have? And they answer, well, what about this? And then you say, well, and you answer that question. What other questions do you have? See, here's part of your problem. You're afraid of their questions because you're afraid you might not know the answer. So learn the answer. Here's what I know for a fact. The more times I ask what other questions do you have, and the more times they give me an answer, the more likely they are to buy. What? Yes. Why? Because what I'm doing is I am eliminating objections. How do you eliminate objections? Don't have any. You answer them when they're questions before they get... See, an objection is an infected question that did not get answered in the presentation or the close. An unanswered question is like an open wound that doesn't get cleaned. Are y'all tracking? And so, what other questions do you have? What other questions do you have? Man, I used to love it when people would ask me 15 questions. They're buying. I don't even have to think about it. They're buying. Why? Because then I say, what other questions do you have? Eventually, guess what they're going to say? I don't have any more questions. You know what that means? There's not even a slight possibility for them to come up with an objection. Great. Now watch what happens next. When they say, I don't have any more questions, you say, do you mind if I ask you a few questions? What are they going to say? The law of reciprocity says, because you answered 15 questions for them, or 7, or however many, they feel obligated to let you ask them a few questions. Oh. So based on the presentation and the questions you've asked and the answers I've given, so because I teach people how to make money and how to make a whole bunch of money faster, I might ask this question. Based on the presentation you've seen, the questions you've asked, the answers I've given, what appeals to you the most? Making the really big money or having more free time, or both? Now, 95% of the time, they're going to say both. Why? Because two things that influence people a lot are recency and frequency. The more often you say something, the more likely it is to settle in. And the most recent thing is the thing people are going to lock into. So if I say, what appeals to you the most, the big money or the free time or both, they're likely to say both because it was the last thing I said and they don't have to think about it. And I already know they're going to say both. So I'm not asking any question I already know the answer to. I'm just guiding the presentation. See, you think your job is to convince somebody to buy. I realize my job is just to facilitate somebody who already desires to buy and not to get in their way. Are y'all tracking? Okay, cool. So they say both. I say, great. If you had the opportunity to benefit from both sooner or later, now notice how I phrase this. Would you choose sooner? Would you choose later, or would you choose sooner? Would you choose later, or would you choose sooner? So I'm asking them a question, but at the end of my question, I'm telling them to choose sooner. It's called an embedded command. So it's a question, it's a statement that's dressed up in a question. If you had an opportunity to do both sooner or later, would you choose later, or would you choose sooner? Sooner. Excellent. How do you spell your first name? Bob, B-O-B. Great. How do you spell your last name? S-M-I-T-H. Great, Bob. And if I'm mailing something to them, what address would you like your product shipped to? Okay. Give me the best phone number to reach you as well as an email address. Now, when you get to the point where you're asking for the money, you don't say, so would you like to buy it? They've already said yes. So what you say is, most people pay. Now, when I'm closing high-ticket sales or premium value offer sales, I don't send them to go fill it out. I pull it up myself and fill it out for them, right? So most people pay with Visa, MasterCard, American Express, or Discover. Which one are you going to use to get started today? It is so good. First thing I said was most people pay. And everybody wants to do what everybody's doing, and nobody wants to do what nobody's doing. Most people pay with Visa, MasterCard, American Express, or Discover. Which one will you be using to get started today? American Express. Great. What's that number? What's the expiration date? You say, people won't give you that. When I used to do multi-level marketing, because it was a business opportunity, they would give me their name, their address, their phone number, their email address, their social security number, and their credit card number. People that I've never even talked to before, ever. Why? Because, okay, I'm going to let y'all in a little secret before we end this video. They went through the miseducational, misdirectional system, aka the government indoctrination camps, also known as child prisons, or schools, their whole life. And they've been programmed to answer questions. So when you ask them questions, they feel obligated to answer because that's what they're in the habit of doing anyway. So I'm going to end with this. You say, Myron, that sounds like manipulation. Okay, so let me break something to you, baby. I'm going to look in the camera for this one. If you're grown and broke, you've already been manipulated. Because nobody set out at 18 to say, you know, I can hardly wait to get grown so I can be broke. So grown and broke equals already been manipulated. I'm not manipulating anybody. They already told me what they desire. I know I can help them get it. So, and by the way, I know that probably sounds a little bit too confident to some of you. I can't fix it because I know I don't hope. I don't think. I'm not wishing. We've already done it too many times with too many people. I know it works. It's a skill set. The difference between a talent and a skill is a talent is God-given, and skills can be acquired by anyone who's willing to do the work. And closing is a skill, and it can be acquired, even if you're an introvert. I know, I am an introvert. I know that's hard for you all to believe, but deal with it. So when you master this way of having a conversation, it'll blow your mind how many sales you'll make. It'll blow your mind. Because you're taking people through a closing sequence and you're understanding that selling is not an event, it's a process. And when you go through all the steps of the process, out pops the sale.